Hi guys, Charles here with Charles Harrison Music, and welcome to video, I think this is video 5 in the Harmonic Analysis series. Today we're doing Someday My Prince Will Come. At the start of the previous video I did a sort of recap of the previous 3 videos up to that point. I won't bother doing that today. I'll maybe do that every few videos and cover everything we've talked about, but we're going to dive straight into it today. So today's tune, Someday My Prince Will Come. I think this is from a Disney film. Is it Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty or something like that? Famously done by Miles. Now in the real book I'm looking at a key signature here, although the lead sheet on the screen you can see now of course there's no key signature. The key signature is 2 flats. Now the rule with flats is whatever the second to last flat is, that's your key. So if I've got 2 flats, they are B flat and E flat. E flat is the last flat and B flat is the second to last flat. Therefore we're in the key of B flat major. So where possible, we always want to try and stay in key. Good pieces of music modulate through different keys and we need to keep track of that as we go. So let's dive straight in. First chord, B flat major 7. There we go. So nothing hugely exciting there, of course that's chord 1 of our key, so we're just going to be playing scale of B flat over that. Now straight away we get what some people call a secondary dominant chord. I think there's a slight difference in meaning of secondary dominant between European and US audiences. I did a class or 2 at Berkeley. A friend of mine studied there. I sat in on a few theory classes and their use of secondary dominant was slightly different. But long story short, it's a dominant chord that isn't the one you expect in the key. In B flat we expect F7, so D7 of course isn't what we expect. Now it's a D7 sharp 5 in the real book, so nice voicing for that would be using this diagonal shape. I'm adding a 9 on the top here, I'll just stick to the standard. So on the A string, 5 4 3 3 or 5 4 3 5, or you could add a flat 9, 5 4 3 4, which I quite like. So what are you going to use over that? Well, we've come across a few sharp 5 chords in the previous tunes. Generally the whole tone's a safe bet, so I can go. Okay, but as you know by now, we only need the major scale, the melodic minor scale and the harmonic minor scale. So out of those, your best bet for a sharp 5 is the altered mode. So as we know by now, you go a semitone up and use the melodic minor scale. So a semitone above D is E flat, so we can play E flat melodic minor. Okay. So far we've got B flat major to E flat melodic minor to E flat major. Now it's up for debate whether we've really modulated here or not. The D7 sharp 5 should really take us to G ideas, because D is the 5th of G. But we've gone to E flat instead, which suggests that perhaps we're still in the key of B flat. That's how I would personally interpret this, and I would play this as a E flat Lydian, which is B flat major. Okay, so I would be going B flat major on chord 1. Okay, so that was B flat major, E flat melodic minor to B flat major again. I'll try and say it as I play, although I'm pretty inaccurate at doing that. B flat, E flat melodic, B flat. Okay, so that takes us nicely over the first 3 chords. I'll do a bit more arpeggio-y so you can hear the chords go by a bit better. Okay, I'm still just finishing on the E flat there. Next up, G7 sharp 5. So G7 sharp 5, that's 3 notes above E flat, just like D7 sharp 5 was 3 notes above B flat. So whatever's happening here is repeated again in a slightly different key. That's enough to make me think that perhaps the E flat is a key in its own right, but I'm still going to stick to Lydian on that. It's open-ended, that, but if you'd like to, you can play E flat major 7 with the E flat major scale, or the B flat major scale. So G7 sharp 5, again, same rule applies. We can play the whole tone, okay, or we can play the altered, which is a semitone up melodic minor. So a semitone above G is G sharp or A flat. So G sharp or A flat melodic minor. Next up is C minor. So we've modulated here. We've gone into the relative minor of E flat. So we're only 5 bars in, and we've already arguably had a scale per bar, which isn't the way I generally like to play. As you know, the point of key centers is to try and turn 10 bars of chords into one scale. But this is a slightly more sophisticated tune, keeps us on our toes. So far we've got B flat into E flat melodic minor, into E flat Lydian or E flat major, or a combination of the two, into A flat melodic minor, over the G7 sharp 5. Now on to C minor 7. So C minor 7, we're just going to be playing the natural minor. It doesn't specify what type of 6 we want. Now here's a nice little trick. Over 6 chords, if it doesn't say, it's pretty acceptable. Well, that was nice, wasn't it? Pretty acceptable to add the Dorian note in there. So over C minor, we can either play B flat major, or we can play E flat major, which I didn't just play there, so I'm still in B flat major. Or we can play E flat major. Okay, so I think seeing as this tune's in the key of B flat, then it's quite nice to add that A in there. Up to you. So either B flat major or E flat major over the C minor 7 chord. G7 sharp 5 again. So alternatives for that would be C harmonic minor, okay, and then C7. Okay, so C7, again we are on a sort of secondary dominant here, so we're still in the key of B flat major, but it's asking us for a C7. So the difference between C7 and C minor 7 is the E natural. So there's not a E natural in B flat, as you know. So technically we would be in F major for this. Again, thinking too literally over every single chord is going to be a bit of a problem. You've got too much to think about. So although technically, theoretically, we are in the key of F major for 1 bar, it's not advisable to think about it that way. Think of this as being a 2-5. You see we've got C7 to an F7. A 2-5 in B flat major, where the C7, you're going to use more bluesy ideas. Okay, so rather than thinking C7, okay, which is an F major scale there, you're just thinking more B flat major, and you're bending those E flats up to an E. So I'm almost using like a C minor pentatonic there. Excuse me. But I'm bending those E flats. There's a brilliant video, George Benson playing I Got Rhythm, where we get the same progression in that. We get okay, we get this secondary dominant cycle of fifths. plays the blues over it, okay? No, it's good enough for George Benson, it's good enough for us. But if you really want to, you can be nice and square and play an F major scale, that's correct. To an F7, well, we're back into B flat major. D minor 7. I played D minor 11 there. Okay, now let's talk about this line as a whole. So we've got D minor 7, C sharp diminished, C minor 7 to F7. What we've got going on here is quite a difficult to unwrap chord progression when we just look at it on face value. When we think about the job these chords are doing, you'll notice we do this twice. We've obviously got the 2-5-1 at the end, the C minor 7, F7, taking us back to a B flat major at the start of the tune. So we know we're going to be using the B flat major scale there. The C sharp diminished is a bit of an enigma though. D minor 7 is from the scale of B flat, so that fits as well. But again, the C sharp diminished doesn't quite make sense. So where's this coming from? Well, diminished chords, I often say to students that a diminished chord doesn't really exist. Now what I mean by that is if we take, in this instance, C sharp diminished, and we add the note A on the bottom of it, we're really just playing an A7 flat 9 chord. So why would we take the A out of a A7 flat 9 and create a diminished? You can think of a diminished as a more sort of androgynous sound. It's neither here nor there. A dominant chord, A7 flat 9, really wants to take you back to a D minor. Okay? But if we get rid of the A and we just have a diminished chord, this can take us to all sorts of places. I've just used it to take me to a G, take me to a C, C minor, which is what we get in this tune. We can go to a D7, we can go to B flat, we can go to all sorts of places is the point. I mean, I could keep going for a while. We could go to E flat, that's a weird one, but I like that sound. It's sort of the relative major of E flat, of C minor. Now the reason this works is if we look at the guitar shows us this quite nicely. If we take a D minor 7 to a C sharp diminished, if you don't know a C sharp diminished, starting on the A string, it's 4, 5, 3, 5. Okay, so D minor, C sharp diminished, C minor 7, F7. Okay. Now the reason this works is if we take these two outside notes, they're just moving down in a semitone, and we love that sound in music. We love. That's got a really nice pull to it. Now, as you know by now, the F7 at the end can become a B7 sharp 11 because that's the tritone substitution. F, G, A, B. So it's 3 tones above. I know I held up 4 fingers there, but if we start on F, G is 1 tone, A is 2 tones, B is 3 tones. So that's a tritone. Meaning I can move the bass note down one more. I can go ba da 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 da. And if I make that B7 chord a B7 sharp 9, I can move it down one more. I can have. Take me back to B flat. So it's got this real chromatic pull to it, and we love the sound of that. And then all that's left to do is fill in the middle notes with whatever harmony works. And we've settled on D minor 7 to C sharp diminished, C minor 7 to F7. Okay, but again, you can change it for a B7 diminished, not diminished, a B7 altered of some sort. Sharp 11 tends to be the go-to. So what are you going to be using scale-wise over that? Well, that's the tricky thing. D minor 7. You could could stay on B flat major because there is a D minor chord in there. But I think a better scale in this instance, because we're moving down chromatically, would be the D natural minor, so that's F major. Okay, then C sharp diminished, well, that's in the D harmonic minor scale. So we can have D natural minor to D harmonic minor, which I just demonstrated there without telling you what I was going to demonstrate. This is very similar, guys, to two tunes we've already done. One was in Stella when we had even resolves to B flat as well, and in Autumn Leaves we had that movement there. So they're very similar chromatic lines, so you can take similar ideas. Another scale you can choose to use would be the C sharp diminished. Now I would, in this particular instance, I would choose to use the half whole diminished scale, because we've just come from a D chord. Okay? My mistake. It keeps those D notes in there, okay? So it keeps the D minor notes. So we can go C sharp, half whole. Okay? But all you need is the D harmonic minor there. C minor 7 and F7 are just the 2, 5 in B flat. So you're back into B flat here. If you'd like to, over the F7, you can use the F altered, which would be G flat melodic minor. Okay, so looking ahead, we then do a repeat, and looking ahead we're into the second time bar. So we've got, in fact, just before we get to the second time bar, bar 8 to bar 9 is another example of minorization. We go for bar 8 is an F7 chord. Into the second time bar, we've got F minor 7. I said bar 9, it's not technically bar 9, I suppose technically it's bar 15. Okay? As we know, when a chord becomes minorized, it becomes a 2. A million times out of 1,000,001, it becomes a 2 chord. So if F minor 7 is 2, F is 2, E flat's going to be 1. Okay? Now it's E flat because F is the second note of the E flat major scale. Again, we need to know our major scales. So F minor 7 to B flat 7 to E flat. Well, there you go. We're actually in the key of E flat. So all that's going to be E flat major over those 3 chords to E diminished. Okay, so E diminished is doing the job of the chord a third below. So it's doing the job of C7 in this. C7 flat 9. Now C7 flat 9 takes us to the note F. Okay? Whereas E diminished takes us to the bass note of F, because we've got a B flat over F chord now. But the chord doesn't have to be an F chord, so it's a B flat chord instead. Remember that E diminished is slightly more ambiguous, androgynous than a C7 flat 9 would be. C7 flat 9 almost requires, by law, an F chord. E diminished can go wherever you want, really. They've taken the bass note up a semitone, but put a second inversion chord of B flat instead. So over the diminished, again, we'd be using F harmonic minor would be nice over this, or F harmonic major. Okay, or if you like, C sharp melodic minor. That's a weird one to use over diminished chords. and then we're back into the key of B flat with a C minor 7 over F, which is another way of saying sort of a F13, F11 sort of thing. And then finally F7 back to B flat. Okay, so any specific voicings really that there's one voicing I'd like to share with you actually, which is a diminished voicing. So I showed you 4, 5, 3, 5. That's sort of your go-to diminished voicing in the middle strings, and we can slide that up 3 frets at a time, and it's a symmetrical chord, which means that it stays true to the correct note. Oh no, it does if you play it right. Okay. However, I quite like using the major 7 in it. This is a more modern sound, so you wouldn't use this in your swing band or your bebop group. Oh, you could get away with it in bebop actually. But all I'm doing here is 4 on the A string, 5, 5, 5. Okay, so that would, in context, that would sound like this. If I put slightly more modern chords in, so I'll use on the bars 9, 10, 11, 12, D minor, C sharp diminished, C minor and F7. D minor 11, C sharp diminished with the major 7 instead. Okay, so that's a nice voicing. Any other nice voicings of that I use? Yeah, so you can go up to the next voicing of that, which is like the minor 7 flat 5. Okay, so you can do it that way. So that would be 6, 7, 6, 7. Now all I'm doing here is playing a chord scale basically built on those same notes. That's a nice one. Any other final voicings for you? Well, yeah, last thing, we'll call it a day after this. I've just demonstrated on the 4, 5, 3, 5 that can move in minor thirds, adding 3 frets. The same can be done with the sharp 5 chords. If we take a diminished, these would be called altered, no they wouldn't, they'd be called augmented chords, getting my words in a twist here, augmented chords. Augmented chords can also be moved in major thirds, so we've got to add 4 frets for these. Okay, we've got same on G7. So you can start on G, but you can actually play B7 sharp 5. You can do D sharp 7 sharp 5, and that gets all these same voicings. And if you're doing the whole tone scale, you can just move that up in tones like that. So, final thing as always is I'll just give a quick run through, play through the tune a little bit, see what happens. Here we go. So it's in 3 time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, there you can hear the scales going by. Hope you enjoyed that, found that useful guys. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.